not only has he not been here very much this week, I mean, he came here for that. Really, he's down. He's got a couple events today, but the rest of this week, other than the Fox Town Hall, he hadn't been here. And when he's been around, and I made this point up in New Hampshire, and some people on the Trump-loving right got mad, but he was not filling up arenas with the kind of energy, the huge, those events from what we remember from 2016, where 50,000 people in the heat in Georgia would show up for him. It's a diminished. The enthusiasm for him is real, but it's diminished, and you really feel here more than anything the sense that statistic that people cite all the time: 75% of the country doesn't want this race. It's on both sides. There's a sense of like acquiescence to this, where people are, Trump will win by, north of 20 points probably tomorrow. He's not been behind. He's not been ahead by less than 20 in a year. He's been ahead of the field here by somewhere between 20 and 35 points for a year straight. So it's not one poll. It's not yesterday's poll or last week's poll. He's had a huge lead here. But man, you do not see Trump signs in the yards out here. You do not have the sense of the fervor that he once commanded. He has a big, giant hammerlock on the party. But people are kind of like, okay, I guess we got Trump and Biden. And that's as true on the Republican side of the party as it is on the Democratic side. There's just this sort of like, okay, well, the fall's going to be, I guess, where the action's at. There's not a lot of energy here, and that's unusual for a South Carolina Republican primary.
The Trump show has gotten old.
Well, it has, and John brings up a great point. I always noticed in political campaigns, locally especially, yard signs were such a leading indicator. If you like a politician enough to put their yard sign in your front yard, that is a massive statement. And it's something that I focused on in my campaign. It's something that I saw, but you don't see. Remember in 2016, we would talk about driving through, the country, driving through New England, driving through the Midwest, and you would see hand-painted Trump signs out there. There still may be some out there, but there's no doubt, Willie, and maybe you hear the same thing talking to your friends who were big supporters of Trump in 16 and 20. It is so true. The media just obsesses. The mainstream media, the lamestream media, whatever the extreme right wants to call it. They obsess on Joe Biden's base not being intense. Man, I just don't hear. When I have conversations with friends that voted for Trump in 16 and 20, there is no excitement in 24. It's kind of like, yeah.
And we still have some of those all-season slippers at $25 a pair. To thank all of you out there for the great, for supporting us through all this. My employees, we've lost all our box stores, our shopping channels. We get attacked every single day, and my pillow should not have to be attacked when they're protecting companies out there that we never heard the names of before, which I don't need to name all the voting machine companies, but...
You're really up against a war machine in Russia. Russia, what they do? They defeated Hitler, they defeated Napoleon. They're a war machine.
I'm trying to be respectful. I promise you, I really am. But the ignorance and, shall we say, stupidity of Dim Scott and the guy next to him is to infinity. The guy next to him, more commonly known as Diaper Don, claims he's been to the best schools, had the best education. Yet it would appear basic history has slipped the guy's head. And with regards Dim Scott, how does he cope? When he's away from politics and amongst family, do they just say, Dim, embarrassing? Tim Scott can't have any friends. If he did, they would rescue him now. He reminds me of a pile of poo waiting to be flushed. Sorry, but there's no other way. I look at Tim Scott and I just think, no. In fact, that's an insult to pigeon poo when you look at Tim Scott. What is he doing? I don't know if he has any credibility. I mean, this is what Tim Scott has done. He randomly decided he was getting engaged. He's kind of booted Nikki Haley in the back. And he's now there like chucking and jiving. And I've said this before. And if you take offence, I don't care. I really don't. If this was back in the day, Tim Scott is the type of person that would be up at the big house going, yes, master, and all of that stuff, thinking that he is a little bit special to anybody else who has the same colour skin as he is. And if you say anything, it says you're being racist, you can't say that. No, Tim Scott would sell his own trousers down the river. He's power hungry. That's what it's all about. Him. No wonder he gets on with former guy. And he is so convinced. I think he thinks he's going to be the next vice president. Him and Tulsi Gabbard, or whatever her surname is. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. I mean, I'm looking at what's going on, and it's actually moved so far away from policy, so far away from ideology. This is not about fiscal matters. This is not about should we put more finance into housing or more finance into health. How should we do our schools? This is just all buffoonery. It's like they're auditioning to be on a reality show that Fox News are putting on. This has nothing to do with politics. I promise you. We might as well let the truckers control the Republican Party. It's like the more dumb, the more extreme, the more further away from reality the people are given a seat. Let me tell you, for example, you have to have budgets. Doesn't matter what level of government you are, you have to have budgets. Tim Scott would have no idea how to start explaining budgets to people. No idea. It's like, has it really come down to this? Who can get the dumbest headlines? It's just a reality show. That's what's going on. Nothing to do with even ideology. I said this all along. If you go back to Liz Cheney's fiscal policy is probably more right-wing and more conservative than anything Trump will come up with, but she believes in the Constitution. And it's all victimhood. I was going through CPAC. It's all poor me, poor. And they never answer any questions. Tim Scott never answers any questions. Never. Not that he's posed any questions. It's all softballing. And they're all scared to actually take on Trump. I was told by somebody the reason MSNBC, CNN, Fox don't ask any questions is because they won't be called upon again. So they have to play the game. They actually forget that people's livelihoods, people's schools, health, all of that is affected by the politicians that are there representing them. And of course, you've now got the situation where Elon Musk is piling on the manure. So basically, anything Joe Biden's ever said is wrong, and everything that President, former loser guy, Diaper Don, has said is right. 91 felonies. People actually believe that his 91 felonies are all made up. They do. That's what they think. And what I'd like to know is how many of these people think if they had a real problem, like there were people outside Mar-a-Lago, I don't know if they got jobs or whatever, how many people think if it was the other way around, if they had a problem and they put a call into Mar-a-Lago asking for former guy to come and help them out, he'd be there? Nope. He's not even interested in his own wife, Melania Trump. He was asked a question the other day. Will Melania Trump be joining you on the campaign? Didn't even answer it. Nobody says anything. It is crazy. But I've worked out what happens is. So, let me give you a slide. It's a post-it, yeah? Post-it. There are the intrinsic details that the average person that watches Fox will take in when it comes to Trump. They've already made their mind up. Not interested in the truth. If Trump tells them that tomorrow is dark and the evening will be light, they will believe it. And if it doesn't happen, deep state, conspiracy theory, because Jim Jordan said so on Fox News. And I pay Elon Musk my blue tick, and look at me. Yes, I can agree with everything Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones says. And if you say anything, well, you're wrong. What do you know? Or as the maggots say, you British people, keep your nose out of it. Well, Liz Truss turned up at CPAC today, and you can ask anybody. She was right up there with Ron DeSantis. Disaster. It's true. That's not me making it up. Disaster. How long did she last? 21 days or something, and gone. Anyway, Tim Scott. If Tim answer? Somebody, one person, please, in the comment section now. Tell me, what the heck was the question? Tim Scott.
Who's the president who brought the most money in for historically black colleges and universities? Donald Trump.
Mr. President, one final comment to the people here, the voters in South Carolina, but beyond, who are watching across the country, about what's at stake in this election coming up, given everything that you're facing.
I actually think the life of our country is at stake. I think that this is the most important election we've ever had. I used to.
And on top of that, who's the president who brought the most money in for historically black colleges and universities? Donald Trump.
I challenge you, the press, look into their backgrounds. Find anything they've done in their lives, their 50-plus years lives, that's racist.
We didn't have to wait long or go very far to accept that challenge, because 25 minutes after it was made, Mary Nicosia admitted she's the owner of an anonymous Twitter account that she and the lawyer admit posted racist.
And now let's play. Is this dumb, social media ignorant, FOS, or all three?
As you see black support eroding from Joe Biden, this is connecting with black America because they love sneakers. They're into sneakers. They love this is a big deal, certainly in the inner city. So when you have Trump roll out his sneaker line, they're like, wait a minute, this is cool. He's reaching them on a level that defies and is above politics. The culture always trumps politics. And Trump understands culture like no politician I've ever seen.
Question for you on that point, though.
Yeah.
Will the people that are excited about the sneakers and excited about Donald Trump, will that translate into them going out and voting for Donald Trump?
Well, anybody willing to put $400 down for a pair of sneakers? Yeah, I think that's commitment and love. It's something. You're right. It's something. It's affection.
In November, we'll be speaking with Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn.
But here's the thing. So they've got a lot of receipts with Hunter Biden. They've got a bunch of receipts with Jim Biden as well. But so far, there's nothing to connect all of that to the president in any kind of way that looks like it's illegal or even potentially unethical. How much longer can this probe go on before the Republicans have to either put up or move on?
It's a great question. And I think the reason they are suspicious, especially with respect to James Biden, is because you have to look at his resume.
They can't really turn a couple of men or a couple of women or three men and a billy goat, for that matter, into a marriage. That's just not what marriage is. No disrespect is intended to anyone. Some people don't want to get married. Okay, there's no obligation, but marriage has a meaning. Marriage is and always has been the union of a man and a woman ordered toward the procreation and education of children. If you don't like that, don't blame me. I didn't set the rules. It wasn't the mean old conservatives who did this. We did not invent marriage. Marriage is a natural institution. It just is what it is. The left will slander us as hateful for observing this fact.
I agree. I mean, they simply are Putin's puppets at this point, right? We know that Putin definitely doesn't want us to support Ukraine. And so what's happened? They have foiled every single attempt that has been made in a bipartisan way to make sure that we can do our part in a supplemental. They don't want it to happen. And it's all because Trump says he doesn't want it to happen. And the fact that Navalny was killed the week after Trump said he doesn't really care what Putin does to our NATO allies if they don't pay up. That is a problem. And the fact that people are still considering putting this man back into the White House is absolutely scary. I need people to take this seriously. You are not voting for your best friend or who you think has the coolest new gold shoes. You are voting for someone to actually run our country, keep us safe, as well as protect and look out for democracy abroad.
I mean, the gold shoes as being cool is quite generous, but yes, your point. Let me start here with the obvious, because you've been working with these committee members, you've been in these meetings. It seems to me, and I just outlined this, like James Comer and his group of top-notch investigators here are just continuing to plow forward with an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. I mean, I guess it's embarrassing for them to shut it down now. It's embarrassing to keep going. What is going on here, and what do you think is going to happen?
Listen, you've got to laugh to keep from crying. Jen, you know, we know what Putin just did with Alex Navalny, right? Like, we know that these are real serious threats. And what I have said before that has really offended so many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle is that we not only are supposed to swear to fight those enemies that are domestic, but also foreign. But it is weird when it seems like a lot of the domestic enemies are right here serving in the house with us. And that's what we have, because everyone should be ashamed. Everyone should be appalled that they have been peddling Russian propaganda. And if we go back a few months, if we go back to the summer, you will recall that James Comer was going on and on and on about his star witness who turned out to be a Chinese asset. So we've got one of our enemies when we talk about Russia. We got one of our enemies when we talk about China. All we need is Iran to jump in this thing, and it will be a full trifecta that the Republican Party has decided that they wanted to embrace. And it is absolutely shameful, and it is also dangerous, not just for our elections, but for our security in this country.
Heard the J6 hostages, you saw the spirit that these people have, the spirit. You would think they wouldn't have any spirit left, but they have tremendous spirit. What's happened to them has probably, to that extent, never happened in our country before. As you know, the left is trying to shame Christians. They try and shame us. I'm a very proud Christian, actually. I've been very busy fighting and, you know, taking the bullets, taking the arrows. I'm taking them for you, and I'm so honored to take them. You have no idea. I'm being indicted for you, as I say. I'm being indicted over and over and over. Think of it. I've been indicted more than some of the greatest criminals in the world for nothing. For nothing. If I understand is that in the end we do not answer to bureaucrats in Washington. We answer to God in heaven. We do. We answer to God in heaven. So today I come before you as a friend and an ally and a fellow believer to ask for your help and your support and your prayers for this country. We need your prayers, most importantly. And I make you a simple promise. In my first term, I fought for Christians harder than any president has ever done before. You know that. You know that. They have to have a political voice. You know, if you think about it, you have men, you have women, and you have religion. If you look at it, you have more than the men, you have more than the women. You have such power. Freedom to worship does not end at the door at a public school, and I supported school prayer, very important, school prayer, which we unfortunately had to force into some schools. It should be very easy. You would think it would be very easy, but it wasn't, but we did it. And I was able to bring this issue for the first time in 54 years back to the states where everybody agrees on both sides. Everybody agrees that's where it should be, back in the states. It was so important. Everybody on both sides. And they are the radicals. Remember this, 2.5 years. And then they had the Mueller report, and it came in no collusion. But I could have told them that on day one. And they would have known that on day one. They should have known it because they had the laptop from hell, so they should have known it. That was, you have to say, that was truly the laptop from hell, wasn't it? Long-time American citizens, and they're being treated better than our soldiers. Our veterans are being treated. They're staying in world-class hotels. The whole thing is crazy, what's happening in our country. Let's call these brave Americans what they really are, persecuted Christians. They're being persecuted. And let's call their imprisonment. They are being imprisoned by Joe Biden and his people, evil people. He's surrounded by very evil people. They are, I believe, just doing whatever they want to do. I don't believe they have any leadership at all. Joe Biden, because of his gross incompetence, is a threat to democracy. Big threat to democracy. To God, you're going to believe in God because God is here and God is watching. God is watching. And God probably can't believe what he's seeing. It's sick. I will protect the content that is pro-God. We're going to protect pro-God context and content. To that end, at the request of the NRB, I will do my part to protect AM radio in our cars. You know, we like to listen to AM radio because you know what we're listening to. Millions of us. I said, hi, what's up? Nothing happened. But I did it, and Israel, therefore, became the capital. And it was a big thing. And on Monday, I called back the biggest leaders in the whole world, richest leaders, biggest leaders. I said, hi, what's up? Would have happened. If I was president, none of it would have happened. As the Bible says, blessed are the peacemakers, right? Blessed are the peacemakers. And I will be, I promise, I will be your peacemaker in more ways than what you think. I will be your peacemaker, and I will be the only president that will be able to say this, and say it with great conviction. I will prevent World War III. We're very close to World War III. This is going to end the so-called Department of Education. We might have one desk, one person, just to make sure everyone's speaking English. Got to have a little bit of regulation, you know. Let's try and keep it so that you can only, that we're going to focus on some English. But after that, you can go ahead and do what you're going to do. Love of Christ, the stories of the Holy Bible, and the voices of famed evangelical people and evangelists like the late, great Pat Robertson, who was a great gentleman. Got to know him very well.